What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I'm going to do a tournament with a Weavile eggs deck in the Legacy format. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you guys liked this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and click that subscribe button. Helps us out quite a bit and lets us do more cool stuff for you guys. And as for the question of the day, if you guys are just looking at the deck list as is, you can see that I am running two different Sneasel. One has 60 HP and free retreat, while the other has 70 HP and 1 retreat. And that got me thinking, there are a decent number of Pokemon that have multiple options that you can do in terms of like the basics. I know that there's Tepig, there's Trubbish, and there are others that just don't come to mind right now, but I know for a fact that there are. And really the choice as to whether or not to run them comes down to their retreat cost versus their bulk. As you can see, this Sneasel has 10 less HP but a free retreat cost. This Sneasel has 10 more HP but a 1 retreat cost. So I'm running both because there are plenty of situations where having just that little extra bulk is very nice, but there are also situations where the free retreat is better. So my question of the day is, what do you guys prefer? If you had the choice between a bulkier Pokemon or a Pokemon that had free retreat as a kind of like a early stage, like the basic of a stage 1 or stage 2, would you run the bulkier with the heavier retreat cost, or would you run the free retreat but less bulk? Honestly, I'm inclined to go with the, well, I guess for me it really depends on the deck that I'm running in. When it comes to Garbodors, I like to run the Trubbish with 70 HP because the vast majority of the time you run a heavier amount of float stones, so that free retreat cost doesn't come into play or that lower retreat cost doesn't come into play all that often because you're running float stone, and float stone is the item that you want to have on the Trubbish. So I mean that in that case I'm okay with having the 70 HP Trubbish with 2 retreat cost as opposed to the 60 HP Trubbish with 1. But in other decks, like this deck for example, I actually prefer the Sneasel with free retreat, just because if you start with that, you might not necessarily want to, and free retreat is ridiculously nice in a ton of scenarios. So in that instance, I prefer the free retreating Sneasel to the 1 retreat. However, in this format, Landorus is almost everywhere, and it can one-shot a Sneasel with simply a Hammerhead. The 70 HP Sneasel, it can only get one-shot by a Hammerhead plus Laser, so your opponent has to expend a little bit more resources, but then again, Laser is not necessarily a hard thing to come by in those type of decks, so it really doesn't overall help too much, but that 10 HP does make a difference in a nice amount of scenarios, so that's why I'm running both of those. But let me know, do you guys prefer better retreat cost or more bulk? Now, before you say anything, once I get into the matches, I do have to tell you I am post-narrating this deck list. The audio file got corrupted, and as I was going through, I was like, well, that sucks. But for some reason, the audio only got corrupted on my deck list, not in the actual live recording of the tournament. So the tournament is still fine, but just the deck list got corrupted. I don't know, but either way, having to post narrate this, so I know what happens in the tournament. I'm not going to spoil that, but yeah, sorry, you guys will notice a discrepancy, particularly in the coins and tickets. I apologize. But anyway, on to the actual deck, centered around Weavile and eggs. This is one of the more popular decks in the Legacy format, not expanded. Vilify, 30 damage, and you may discard as many Pokemon as you like from your hand. This attack does 30 damage times the number of Pokemon you discarded. So there's instant synergy with Exeggcute and Propagation. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in your discard pile, you may put it into your hand. So the obvious combination, throw a bunch of Exeggcute in the discard pile, put them back into your hand and Vilify for at least 120 damage, 150 with Silver Bangle, and then all you need to do is discard 1 more Pokemon to hit for that magic 180, which knocks out almost every, well, it knocks out every non-Eviolighted EX in the format. So very, very, very potent combination that we have right there. And then the rest of the cards in the deck are just Pokemon that we can either discard and recycle, or that help out in some way, but also can be discarded in a certain matchup. First of all, we have Sableye. Sableye with Junk Hunt is ridiculously good in this deck because not only do the Exeggcute propagation help with the Vilify, but also it mitigates the discard cost of things like Computer Search, Ultra Ball, Junk Arm. I mean, you just double propagate into your hand, discard those guys, get what you need, and then, I mean, you can just propagate all over again. Because even though Exeggcute says once during your turn, the ruling is your hand is private information, so there's technically not a way to prove that that is the same Exeggcute. Admittedly, if you propagate like 12 times per turn, which is not outlandish for this deck at all, your opponent can be like, hold on, you only run 4 Exeggcute, but the ruling is as soon as Exeggcute comes into your hand from the discard pile, that's private knowledge, you're allowed to use propagation again, so this deck abuses the ever-living heck out of that. And Sableye, in particular with Junk Hunt, you junk hunt for 2 Junk Arms, and suddenly you have access to your whole discard pile again without the discard cost with Exeggcute to propagate. So just really, really, really potent combination, and running 2 because, I mean, Sableye is actually really nice in this deck, and it can also be discarded with Vilify. For the main attacker, 4/4 of Sneasel and Weavile. I explained why I'm using the 2 different Sneasel. And then, of course, 4 Weavile, because the focus of this deck is the prize trade, being able to use non-EX attackers to knock out EX attackers. And basically, we just want to trade like 3 Weavile for 3 EXs and win the game off of that. So that is the focus of the deck. 4 of these attackers, running 4 for the propagation, like I said. And then another Pokemon that is good for discarding is Archen. I mean, really, you can just use like Archen, Tortuga, Lileep, or Anorith. Anything that has the Prehistoric Call ability. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in your discard pile, you may put this Pokemon on the bottom of your deck. Really nice for being able to just, okay, I drew into Archen, discard it, I want it back in my deck to be able to search out with Level Ball so that I can Vilify again. So basically, I mean, I'd like to have a 5th Exeggcute in this spot, but Archen is another, well, Archen or any Prehistoric Call Pokemon is a nice way of just being able to recycle a Pokemon that you can Vilify repeatedly with. For Exeggcute, like I said, because of propagation. 1/1 of Voltorb and Electrode for pseudo draw support. Magnetic Draw is very, very nice, especially late game. Once during your turn, you may draw until you have 4 cards in your hand. However, if you decide that, you know what, I don't really want Electrode in this matchup, again, that's just 2 more Pokemon that you can discard with the Vilify. 2 Jirachi to be able to grab a supporter when we need it, and also another Pokemon to Vilify. 2 Jirachi is, I mean, I know you normally only run 1. However, the second Jirachi, if you already used one, again, another Pokemon to Vilify, so that's why running 2 isn't a bad thing. And then Mr. Mime helps out with the myriad of bench sniping in the Legacy format with Darkrai, Kyurem, Landorus, to name a few. This deck would get destroyed by that. Mr. Mime helps out a little bit, although you have to be careful with Garbodor. That's, I think I just mixed up those 2 words. You have to be careful with Garbodor because that admittedly does just shut that deck down, this deck down completely. So there are a few cards that I'm running that will help out with that. 1 Computer Search, just get you what you want when you want. Admittedly, you can use Life Dew in this deck. I've seen quite a few iterations of this deck run Life Dew because you can easily recycle that with Junk Arm and Exeggcute. However, I prefer the combination of Junk Arm and Computer Search with Propagate because a Junk Arm essentially, with 2 Exeggcute in the discard pile, essentially turns into search your deck for a card and you can grab it. So, love that combination. That's why I went with Computer Search. However, Life Dew, if you don't have access to a Computer Search, is an excellent option as well. 3 Dark Patch allow us to accelerate energy onto Sneasel and Weavile on the bench so that we are able to get these things powered up in 1 turn, because one problem with Weavile is it does have 2 energy and you can't just slap a DCE, so you do have to have 2 darkness energy. Dark Patch is a way to accelerate that energy in 1 turn. 1 Escape Rope and 1 Switch. That way, I mean, just kind of disrupt our opponent, get like an Electrode or a Mime or a Jirachi out of the active spot if we don't want to start with it, or even a Sableye to a lesser extent. Just switch cards. Very, very nice for Junk Arm, like I said, because of the combination. The combination of Junk Arm and Exeggcute. For Level Ball, search everything in the deck. And admittedly, you might be wondering, wait, if everything is searchable with Level Ball, then why don't you just run 4 Level Ball? Why are you running 4 Ultra Ball? Well, that's because Ultra Ball discards, and really what we want in this deck is to discard Exeggcute. If you have an Exeggcute in your hand, you want that thing in the discard pile as quickly as possible. Level Ball, wow, I am having so much trouble with pronunciation right now. It's probably good that I had to redo this. But Level Ball does not let you discard. Ultra Ball does. That's why we are running 4 Ultra Ball and 2 Level Ball. I mean, we're going to have 2 Exeggcute in the discard pile more often than not. So that way, Ultra Ball, the discard is not affected by that, and Level Ball is just another nice way of searching. 2 Pokemon Reversals, be able to bring out things on the bench that our opponent doesn't necessarily want us to bring out, like a Jirachi or a damaged attacker. 2 Random Receivers, be able to get supporters, especially with Junk Arm and Exeggcute. A Junk Arm just turns into a Random Receiver, which allows us to get a supporter. 1 Super Rod, because our Weaviles are going to get knocked out. This way we can put them back into the deck, have more attackers. 1 switch, like I said. 2 Tool Scrapper. Normally decks only run 1. However, we need 2 in this deck because we need it against Garbodor. Otherwise, it's just an auto loss. So we have to have 2 Tool Scrapper to have it when we need it so that we can turn off Garbotoxin, which allows us to reuse Propagate, Magnetic Draw, all that stuff. Low line of supporters, 2 N and 4 Juniper, because Juniper heavy line because we want to discard stuff, and N just late game if your opponent comes out swinging and takes too many prize cards, you can N him down and help out later. And then also N plus Electrode late game is super powerful. 2 Silver Bangle, help with the math. 7 of the regular Darkness because it allows us to use Dark Patch as well. But then 2 of the Special Dark. There are an annoying amount of Pokemon that have like 130 HP, which means we need a 5 discard Vilify as opposed to a 4, which a 4 is super easy to get because of 4 Exeggcute. However, Special Darkness allows us to hit for 10 more damage, which lets us hit for 140, which is crucial in quite a few different matchups. So yeah, that is the deck. Now, again, like I said, I'm having to post-com this deck list, but I did live narrate the tournament, so without further ado, let's go ahead and, well, either way, you guys are going to hear my commentary about me entering a Legacy tournament with this deck. So, yeah, let's do it. Alright, we are out here. Let's go ahead and jump into this Legacy tournament. Go through literally every single deck I've ever had. Make sure we grab Weavile eggs, and it looks like we are the 3rd player to join, so I'm just going to pause the video until the tournament is a little bit closer to starting. Alright, so it looks like the tournament is getting kind of close to starting. I mean, we have 7 people, so I just decided to unpause the recording so I didn't have to just be like, okay, sorry, we're in a battle. But, I mean, it could be any given amount of time. Usually once we get the 7th player, the 8th player joins pretty quickly, although that doesn't look to necessarily be the case right now, so I'm probably just going to be rambling a little bit. But I've been wanting to do a Legacy tournament with this deck for a little bit, and okay, never mind. Forget my rambling. We are in a match against 0-2-1-1-0-4 with a Psychic deck, so inherently we're going to have the advantage due to our typing. We do lose the coin flip, which means we will go second, which is... Never mind, we're going first. Not sure why my opponent would let me go first. We do start off with a Mr. Mime and a horrendous hand. This hand is actually awful because, I mean, we don't have VS Seeker in the Legacy format. Having supporters in the discard pile is nothing but bad news. And I'm going to be getting rid of a Junk Arm and a Dark Patch and a Reversal turn 1, so this is bad. My opponent is playing, looks to be like a... this looks to be like a Lost Guard deck. So that's unfortunate and is very scary. So what I'm going to do is just Ultra Ball, get rid of the Tool Scrapper and the Exeggcute, just in case. I mean, my opponent might be playing a... Mewtwo. Who knows? I mean, this is Psychic. It's Legacy. Psychic and Legacy all mean Mewtwo, usually. So, we'll see. Otherwise, my opponent is going to... This is going to be potentially an uphill battle, depending on what type of disruption my opponent has. If they have Garbodor, I'm going to be in a little bit of trouble. However, I'm hoping I can chain together Tool Scrappers often enough to where I'll be able to get rid of that thing. But either way, looks like my opponent is... Okay, plays down the Meloetta, so... I mean, and the Sharon. So, I mean, it looks like we're up against a deck that's kind of just a bunch of random cards. I mean, not to take anything away from my opponent, but I don't inherently see anything that is particularly synergistic about the deck. I do get a Darkness, which I'm going to throw onto my Sneasel. If I can get like a Dark Patch and a Weavile, I'll be able to knock out this Mime. But I am going to play the Jirachi, see if I can grab my last Juniper. And that's the only supporter I have left. That is phenomenal. That's actually atrocious. Wow. And okay, so I'm going to be able to Weavile this turn. Let's go ahead and Propagate. I mean, I have enough to start vilifying. Let's Junk Arm, get rid of both of the Exeggcute to grab a... I want to grab an Ultra Ball. I need to grab the Dark Patch at some point, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab that now. Wait, I have a Dark Patch in my hand. What am I doing? So I'm stupid. Let's Level Ball, just grab that. Let's grab the Exeggcute, because I mean, I can always just Junk Arm for that for the Level Ball to grab the Weavile. And then let's double Propagate, or just single Propagate. That's all I need. Junk Arm, get rid of both of those Exeggcute, and grab the Level Ball. Yeah, grab the Level Ball to be able to grab my Weavile to be able to attack. I mean, I'll be able to Dark Patch onto my Sableye after I manually retreat my Mr. Mime, so I'm not too worried about that. And then, yeah, let's go ahead and play that there. Retreat my Mime into my Weavile, get the Darkness in the discard pile. Go ahead and triple Propagate. I mean, I really only need to single Propagate, but I mean, like I always say, there's no kill like overkill, which is exactly what we are going to go for. Right now, I could Dark Patch onto my Sableye, which I'm just going to go ahead and do that. That way I have access to Junk Arms later, and then let's Vilify. I was going to go for Hail, but considering I already have the Mr. Mime, the Mime Jr. is awake, so I can just go ahead and knock that thing out, take a prize, and wow, it's another Exeggcute. So I'm going to be able to Vilify for 150 damage next turn, make sure it is a one-shot on this 110 HP Meloetta, and I mean, yeah, I think we'll just be able to run through my opponent at this point, be able to take prizes every single turn. And I mean, like I've said before, you don't really have any quality control when you're in legacy matches. I mean, you get what matches you're given, and you just kind of go from there. So this first match, obviously a deck of just a bunch of cards that are kind of thrown together. I get a special Darkness. So at this point, I'm just going to triple Propagate once again. Throw all my Exeggcute into the discard pile. I mean, I don't even need to triple Propagate. I just need to double Propagate. But again, no kill like overkill, and also because I'm paranoid about math. I'm just going to go ahead and get the 4 Exeggcute, because I mean, I lose nothing by just that extra click of Propagate. Discard all 4 of them in case somewhere along the line my math went wrong. And yeah, I mean, able to knock out that Meloetta, take a couple prizes, which is a Sneasel and an Ultra Ball. I'll be able to grab that. I'll be able to play down the Sneasel, Exeggcute into my hand to Ultra Ball for a Weavile later. And yeah, I mean, if my opponent does Psybeam, that's fine. Really doesn't matter overall. I even get a Computer Search. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and Propagate, use that Computer Search to grab I'm going to grab my Switch if I can. Because that's obviously what's going to get me out of this situation. But yeah, let's get rid of the Exeggcutes. Go ahead and... Well, there's the Escape Rope, but let's just grab the Switch. Switch into my Sableye, then retreat into... Well, bleh. Retreat back into my Weavile, and I'll be able to knock out this Musharna with another quadruple Propagate, because why the heck not? Let's see, what do I have going? Yeah, I mean, I win. I really don't see any way that I don't win at this point. But, I mean, again, no kill like overkill, so I'm going to discard all of the Exeggcute and the Sneasel in my hand. Let's just go for that Vilify, discard all of my Exeggcute and the Sneasel to win the game and move on to round 2. So yeah, sorry that this wasn't like a super competitive match. I mean, I just kind of had to go with whatever the first round gave me. And yeah, very, very quick first match. None of my opponents are even yeah, none of my opponents are even done yet, so it looks like we're going to be waiting for a little while. So, yeah, I'm just going to pause the video until we get closer to getting into round 2. Alright, so round 2 should be starting at any minute now, and there it is. And I'm against Waka Waka Waka, who I know he's a regular of Legacy tournaments. I've seen him in here quite a bit, so I'm very curious to see what he is running, and he's running a Celebi Virizion Genesect deck, which is actually really good for us. That is honestly one of the better matchups that this deck has, because, I mean, there's no Garbodor to shut off abilities. Granted, this does do better when I don't have Exeggcute as a starter. But I mean, if Exeggcute gets knocked out, shouldn't be that big of a deal. We do see the Tool Scrapper and the Verbank. Gonna be a little bit annoying with the poison, but I mean, like I was saying, this deck, my opponent's deck is actually one of the better matchups of Weavile Eggs, just because, I mean, there's no way of stopping Propagate. Once we get going, we are able to just repeatedly knock out the Genesect after Genesect, and then just take 3 knockouts to win the game. I do even get a Silver Bangle, so at the very least, I'll be able to get that in the discard pile. I do get another Exeggcute, so I'm gonna grab the Sneasel right here. Which Sneasel do I want? I'm just gonna grab the free retreating Sneasel. I mean, just in case my opponent red signals but isn't able to pull off a turn 1. Let's play the Silver Bangle there, play the Darkness there, and then I know I have an N, and that I kind of admittedly want to save, but because I have 2 Exeggcute in my hands, I want those things in the discard pile immediately. So I do, okay, I get a pretty solid start afterwards. So I am just going to go ahead and propagate with my Exeggcute to be able to Ultra Ball. Let's go ahead and propagate again, and I just realized that there was absolutely no reason to propagate again because I already had an Exeggcute in my hand. So, whoops, my bad. I will be able to grab... I'm just going to grab another Sneasel. That way, even if my opponent red signals up and manages to knock out the other Sneasel that I have on the bench, I'll at least have a backup attacker that I can power up with a Dark Patch. So I'm just going to play the Voltorb down. That way I have Magnetic Draw later in the match if I need it. I didn't play the Reversal just because having Genesect on the bench is... I don't know. I feel like having Genesect on the bench is a little bit better than active, although then again you want those... I don't know. I was torn. I wanted to see if my opponent would have to play like a Jirachi or something that I could Reversal in, but my opponent does get a Colress Machine onto his Genesect, which the Plasma Energy turned into a fire. So all of the energy that I've been seeing through different effects has been turning to fire at some point. Like, it's so weird. I'm wondering what the reason is behind it. I mean, it's not a problem at all. Like, it is literally just an aesthetic thing, and it's just something kind of cool that I've been noticing. My opponent does switch into his Mr. Mime, plays a Floatstone on it. I guess he doesn't want to risk the Genesect getting knocked out, and that is exactly why I have the Reversal. So I'm going to play that, hopefully get heads. I do not. Let's go ahead and play the Sableye down. That way I can Junk Hunt if I need. Play the Weavile down, and then let's Juniper, see if I can get like a combination of stuff that will get me Exeggcute out of the active spot. And I do. Ooh, I get some nice stuff. So I'm going to Reversal, see if I can get heads. Yes, I do, onto that Genesect. Is there a way to get enough to knock out the Genesect? So I need 2 more Pokemon. Yeah, I need 2 more Pokemon in my hand to be able to knock out this Genesect. So let's go ahead and propagate. Actually, no. Let's computer search just with what I have. I think get rid of the Exeggcute and the Juniper. Just because, I mean, I'm going to have to Magnetic Draw, see if I can get 2 Pokemon off of that. So let's Computer Search, get the switch. That way, at the very least, I can have my Weavile active. Then play the Silver Bangle onto my Sneasel on the bench, evolve up the Electrode, play the Darkness onto my Weavile, switch into the Weavile, and then Tool Scrapper away the Floatstone. That way I can Magnetic Draw for 4 cards. Hopefully it's a way to get 2 more Pokemon to allow me to one-shot the Genesect. And I do immediately even draw into those. So what I am going to do is go ahead and propagate once and twice. I'm probably going to use I'm going to double propagate so that I can Junk Arm for the Level Ball. That way I can keep the Weavile. Actually, do I want to? yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Get rid of both of the Exeggcute because I can just put those back into my hand. Double Propagate for probably just the Level Ball. That way I can just search out probably the Archeops or something like that. And then let's go ahead and Triple Propagate, get those suckers back into my hand. I can Super Rod back in next turn if I want to put back the Sneasel. The Sneasel. I was like half between Sneasel and Weavile. But yeah, let's go ahead and grab that. Not Archeops, the Archen. Archeops is the evolved form. Sorry, I'm so used to using the Maxis. And then let's Vilify. Get rid of the Exeggcute, Archen, and the Sneasel to be able to knock out this Genesect with a Silver Bangled Vilify. And this is exactly why I said this deck has a beneficial matchup against Genesect. I decided not to evolve the Sneasel just so I have that free retreat in case my opponent tries to play like Catcher or Reversal or something like that. Okay, he plays the... Oh, awesome. He plays a Hypnotoxic Laser, and that's... I'm so glad I kept the free retreat now. Because my opponent is going to put my Weavile to sleep. He has to rely on my Weavile staying asleep. He does Skyla for the Dual Ball, so he should be able to get some more Pokemon into play at the very least on this turn, like another Genesect or a Celebi Prime or something. But, oh, he gets Double Tails and just passes. So we are going to win the game on this. I do wake up. It didn't matter. What I would have been able to do is Junk Arm for a switch, gone into my Sneasel that still had free retreat, then just switch right back into my Weavile and knock out the Mr. Mime. So yeah, able to advance past round 2 pretty easily. Unfortunately, my opponent didn't draw well, so yeah, unfortunate that that's how it ended. But either way, we're in the finals, so I'm just going to pause the video until that match starts. Alright, so I was a little bit slow on the draw. I didn't get it before the message came up, but I still got it before the finals. And we are against Kitten Cat 0123, so I'm kind of interested to see what deck he's running. He's running Grass, Water, Psychic? What? That's interesting. We do win the coin flip, so we will get to go first. That is great for us. And start with a decent hand. I would have liked a supporter, but I mean, at the very least, I can Ultra Ball for a Jirachi. And I can play, I guess, I don't know. I wouldn't play the Silver Bangle on anything in particular. But either way, I mean, my opponent clearly starts with some decent stuff. And oh, boy. This is bad. Actually, you know what? If this is the deck that I think it is... I mean, I've never played against this deck. This is actually the first time I've ever played against this deck. And, So I start off with a bad hand, and on top of that, this is a bad matchup anyway. The fact... I mean, it's a very cool deck that I've been wanting to run for a while. It's a, obviously a Kyurem Garbodor. Basically, it just relies on the prize trade of being able to take 2 prizes for 1. But with Blizzard Burn, just being able to Blizzard Burn, Frost Spear, so it's an excellent deck. And unfortunately, I don't even get a Sneasel into play. So that's even worse. I do have to rely on getting constant Tool Scrappers in order to be able to even do anything. That sucks that I wasn't able to get a Sneasel into play turn 1. But, I mean, nothing I can do about that. I just have to Random Receiver and pass. If my opponent gets set up, there's nothing I can do. Because the Kyurems require 4... no, the Kyurems require 5. Like, the 130 HP makes it so they require 5 Pokemon to be discarded. And on top of that, Garbodor is going to make it exceedingly difficult to consistently get what I want set up, because, I mean, he'll be able to shut off my propagation, he'll be able to shut off my prehistoric call. So this is a very, very, very bad matchup for me. I mean, even the Frost Spear is going to be able to start sniping down the Jirachi if I'm not able to get my Mr. Mime in play, and even then, it might not even matter, because Mr. Mime's going to get shut off by Garbodor. So this is... this is bad. This is... I mean... I'm not trying to say that my opponent's deck is bad at all. I mean, that is an awesome deck. It is a very cool idea, and I don't want you guys thinking that, like, I'm like trying to bash on my opponent in any way. I know that there have been times where people have been like, oh, you're saying that your opponent's bad and stuff like that. I'm not saying that at all. This is a deck that I've never run into before that is a very cool combination of cards that obviously works well because, I mean, one, he's in the finals. Two, I have a deck that is very, very common in the expanded format that has a horrible matchup against my opponent's deck. And come to think of it, the most common decks in the expanded format actually would have trouble with my opponent's deck. Like, Virizion Genesect, the prize trade is bad. Frost Spear sets up Silver Bangle Blizzard Burns to be able to take knockouts, and then you can just constantly stream Blizzard Burns with the XP share, use Frost Spear to set up the knockouts, all of that. And then against Reshflosion, you obviously have type advantage. I mean, you don't get to shut off their abilities, but I mean, you at least have type advantage, which is enough in a lot of cases. And I still don't get an energy. What is this? Wow. I'm just gonna switch into my Sneasel, and then I think Dark Patch onto the Sableye and switch back. But I mean, okay, this is a horrendous start as well. I mean, like, I'm probably still gonna lose this matchup. Well, I'm probably gonna lose it now because of how horrible my start is. But I would have probably lost it anyway, just because of how good my opponent's deck is against my style. But like I was saying, my opponent's deck in the expanded format, in Legacy format. So we already covered Virizion Genesect. Has beneficial matchup because of the prize trade and Garbodor shutting off Red Signal and Verdant Wind. Reshflosion, you have type advantage and are able to snipe the bench. Weavile Eggs, able to shut off abilities and snipe the bench. Tool Drop, able to shut off abilities and snipe the bench. And then also, what's the one I'm forgetting? Oh yeah, Fluffy Chomp. Again, beneficial trade. Fluffy Chomp actually probably has the best matchup against my opponent's deck, just because, I mean, it's able to discard special energy, but Garbodor is just so ridiculously disruptive. I mean, that thing is very, very strong, and when you combine it with a apparently pretty consistent engine of Chorus Machines plus experience share, that leads to some pretty cool exchanges. I do just have to junk on right here. I would have liked to Vilify, try to set up my opponent's Kyurem to get knocked out, but I mean, I couldn't. There's just nothing I could do right there. I mean, my Sableye on the bench will get knocked out, but that's, again, nothing I can do about that. Hopefully my opponent doesn't get a Floatstone Garbodor, but if he does, I mean, I do have the 2 Exeggcute in my hand that I can junk arm for a Tool Scrapper to be able to set that up. But either way, I'm definitely showcasing my opponent's deck at some point. That is, man. I mean, it's caught me so off guard that I'm just like, I never would have thought of that before. Like, it's really cool, and this is why I love TCGO, and this is why I love Legacy, because there are so many unseen types of strategies that you can encounter a different deck every single day. Like, there's so many different strategies that are available because of the crossing of Black and White and Heart Gold, Soul Silver. That's why I love the Legacy format so much. It doesn't get stale, because even the decks that would populate it, I mean, yeah, the budget decks are all over, like Fluffy Chomp, Tool Drop, and Weavile Eggs. I mean, those things are everywhere because they're relatively, okay, I say relatively easily attainable. I know that things like Computer Search and Junk Arm, and even Smeargle cost almost an arm and a leg to get. But either way, I mean, they're still very, very cool and somewhat easily obtainable decks, and then the Virizion Genesect is super expensive, so that's a deck that's really hard to come by. So I mean, it encourages creativity, which I love. Okay, finally I'm going to be able to get a Weavile up, but unfortunately my opponent's already taken a prize. He's gonna be able to have another Kyurem up in the background, and I mean, the only chance I had was if I got my Weavile set up before my opponent was able to get a backup Kyurem, because I mean, the speed was the only thing I had going for me. If he's able to consistently knock out Weaviles, and luckily he has not gotten a Garbodor up, so that's got a little bit of saving grace for me in that sense. But I need to get just a constant stream of Weaviles at this point. If I can get that, I have a chance to win this game just by just by streaming Weaviles, knocking out Curums before he can get them set up, and then I'm going to Magnetic Draw, see if I can get something else. Get my 4th Junk Arm, so I'm probably going to be going through 4 Junk Arms on this one turn. Which, I mean, isn't a bad thing. But I am... do I want to just go ahead and Nah, not yet. Wait, no. Not Archeops. I want... Not Archen. I want Exeggcute. There we go. Okay, so I misclicked on the Archen. Let's go ahead and Ultra Ball. Probably to grab the Mr. Mime just to try to shut off my opponent's ability to snipe my bench with Frost Spear. Or do I want another Weavile? I'm just going to... Actually, yeah, let's just grab Weavile. Let's play that onto... I mean, at least have a backup Weavile to potentially get some stuff going. I mean, this deck requires a lot of clicks. If you like clicking, you're going to like this deck. So let's bring both of the Exeggcute back. I mean, I just have drawn so poorly that I need something. I need to get something going. Let's Random Receiver, get my Juniper. If I can get one. There we go. Okay, so I do get a Juniper. That means I'm going to be able to attack this turn. Let's retreat into a Weavile. Dark... Hold on. Let's propagate. I mean, I'm going to have to do some really convoluted plays, which unfortunately is wasting all my Junk Arms. Like, I do not want to have to waste all my Junk Arms on this. But I'm having to because I'm drawing very badly at this point. So let's go ahead and Dark Patch onto the Weavile. Go ahead and Junk Arm, get rid of the 2 Exeggcute to grab my switch. That way, that way I can at least Vilify. So if my opponent gets a Garbodor next turn, I have no way of getting it. I have no way of getting anything in particular back. I mean, I can go for a... I can attach and go for a Junk Hunt, but at that point, it would just be another wasted turn that I can't afford. So, I mean, I will be able to knock out this Kyurem at the very least. But, unfortunately, my opponent does have a Kyurem set up in the background. He has a Trubbish with the tool. He has another Trubbish. So even just reversaling up that thing wouldn't be doing much. Let's Ultra Ball, get rid of the Darkness Energy and the Exeggcute so that way I can Dark Patch onto my Weavile. Let's grab the Mr. Mime. So if my opponent cannot Blizzard Burn, at least he can't Frost Spear my Weavile. And then let's Dark Patch onto the Sableye instead so I can at least have the Junk Hunt for next turn, save my manual attachment, and all of that. So, oh boy, this is going to be rough. And I mean, I just took like 4 minutes on one turn just because I was drawing absolutely nothing. And I had to just make that ridiculous series of plays in order to get things going. So yeah, I'm just going to Super Rod back in my Sableye, Weavile, and my Jirachi, have those later. And then let's just Vilify, get rid of all of my Exeggcute and the Archen to finally be able to take a knockout. Like, if I was able to get this set up without this huge convoluted mess of a turn that I had to go through, then I'd be in a decent spot. As it stands, not so much. So my opponent, if he Frost Spears, I actually didn't play the Mr. Mime because I want to lure him into trying to Frost Spear the Jirachi. Just because that would allow him to be able to take another knockout with a Frost Spear later. And also, take a 2-prize knockout on the Jirachi with a Frost Spear later, and then potentially I could get another Vilify off to be able to knock out my opponent's Kyurem and just... I have a very small chance. If my opponent cannot get Blizzard Burns going and does not get a Garbodor set up, I will be fine. Unfortunately, he gets another Colress Machine onto his Kyurem. And he's able to get a Blizzard Burn, so this is bad. And now here's the Computer Search. It is 100% going for a Garbodor. That's very unfortunate. I mean, maybe if I can reversal it. Oh, wait, no, my reversals are in the discard pile. So I'm going to have to give up even more prizes. Oh, my opponent hadn't even used a supporter yet. Crap. So I'm going to... I mean, I just think that, like... I just think I'll be giving up too many prizes to be able to keep up with my opponent's deck. I mean, I'll have to give up this Weavile, which my opponent will take. I'll have to give up the Sableye. I'll have to give up the Sableye because of having to Junk Hunt for a Junk Arm in order to shut down Garbodor to at least be able to attack. And yeah, this matchup, I mean, it's very difficult straight up, but with the way I've drawn and how well my opponent has played, I think this is this is virtually unwinnable at this point. I mean, I'm still going to go for it because, I mean, hey, that's an extra pack. But overall, I don't think there's anything I can do. My opponent does get a Garbodor up. That's just like a nail in the coffin, and gonna have to see if I can... I don't even have my N. I don't have another supporter. I just was getting rid of Random Receiver at that point. I'm just gonna Junk Hunt. Just gonna Junk Hunt because that's all I can do. Let's grab a Tool Scrapper and probably a Junk Arm. Just because that's the only way I'm gonna be able to do anything next turn. And I have no more draw supporters. So the only support I'm going to get is through Magnetic Draw, which, I mean, if I didn't have Magnetic Draw, I would just be completely SOL, and I'd have no way of even thinking about a process of coming back. So Electrode's coming through clutch, although not anymore because of Garbotoxin. I mean, at the very least, I'm going to be able to get rid of Garbotoxin, knock out my opponent's Kyurem, and if he... never mind. I was going to say, if he doesn't get a, if he didn't get an energy onto that Kyurem, he'd be able to, he wouldn't be able to attack this turn because, well, he'd only be able to Frost Spear, which, I mean, he ends up doing, but he gets to retain all the energy on his active Kyurem as well, which is even worse, because now he still has a Blizzard Burn in the back instead of having to manually retreat, get rid of all that energy, because if he got rid of all that energy, I would actually be in a great spot. Like, if he had to manually retreat that Kyurem, I think I could have won. Because what I can do now is attack with my Weavile, knock out my opponent's Kyurem. But unfortunately, because of the Float Stone, I'm not able to do that. So what I am going to do is just go ahead and Junk Arm for a Level Ball. No, I need to get a Super Rod. I need to put back my Weavile and Sneasel, because I mean, I'm still gonna need more Weaviles at this point. Like, that Floatstone was ridiculously clutch for my opponent, because I mean, I don't think, I guess, I don't know. So I'm curious what my opponent's play would have been had he not gotten that Floatstone, but now I am just gonna Super Rod back in my Sneasel Weavile and a Darkness Energy, so I can at least have something. Let's play the Special Dark onto the Weavile, play the Sableye down, Magnetic Draw, see, get a couple more cards, see if I can get something that I can work with, and I get double Weavile, so I don't even get a Sneasel, because if I had another Sneasel, I could potentially work with the idea of playing another Sneasel down, attacking with this Weavile, letting it get knocked out, and then having some form of being able to get another Weavile next turn and knock out his other Kyurem with the energy on it. But unfortunately, the fact that I was not able to get a Sneasel on that turn was the final nail in the coffin. I mean, unless there's just an egregious misplay by my opponent, I cannot possibly see him losing this match, just because, I mean, even though we're tied on prizes, he's so far ahead in setup that there's pretty much nothing I can do at this point. I fortunately only need to get rid of the Exeggcute because the Special Dark helps the math quite a bit. And there's a Sneasel. One turn too late. One turn too late. Once he knocks out this Weavile, he'll just be so far ahead because I'll have to spend another turn Junk Hunting. My opponent will be able to take... Actually, you know what? I think the game is over at this point. If he can get another Frost Spear, he's going to be able to... Okay, yep, there it is. There's the water energy. All my opponent needs is one energy next turn. He'll be able to snipe down the Jirachi for 2 prizes. Shuts off my abilities, so Mr. Mime isn't even able to do anything. Isn't even able to use Bench Barrier to help me out. And yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, that would have been a difficult matchup to begin with because of my opponent's very awesome anti-meta deck that I'm 100% going to steal. But, I mean, unfortunately, it was just very much something that I would have trouble dealing with as is, but the fact that I drew so horridly really didn't help at all. I mean, I expended so many resources just trying to get a single Vilify off, which was ultimately what led to me losing the game. So congratulations to my opponent. I mean, that's I mean, just huge props on that. Like, I take nothing. I want to take absolutely nothing away from my opponent. That was a well-played match with an excellently planned out and thought out deck. And you know what? You know what? You guys sat through me rambling, so I'm just gonna go ahead and reward you with a opening of a couple Noble Victories packs and a couple Triumphant packs. See if I can get like the Full Art N, a Celebi Prime, or a Junk Arm, or just something cool. See if I can get anything like that from these packs. So all right, so we get a double rare. Get a Jardigan to get anything good. Got nothing from Noble Victories. All right, let's see if we can at least get a Junk Arm. Because I mean that's an uncommon in Triumphant, although that thing appears just to be stupidly rare for some reason. Okay, no Junk Arm in this one. Do we get a Celebi Prime? We do not. We get a Drapion. One more chance to pull something good from these tournament packs. Let's see. All right, show me the money, show me the money. No Junk Arm, Celebi Prime, and no. So, unfortunately, didn't draw anything, but thanks, guys, for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and this is Sticks, signing out. Why not? See you guys.